Al, have you found that? When you look at it, PNG's approach to situations here in India, is it very different to the diversity and inclusion packages that you've put in place around the world? You've won awards for it globally. Is there a difference?
I think what's similar is the core principles are the same. So Procter & Gamble, diversity and inclusion is a core principle. Why? It's the right thing to do, and it's good for business. And if you have any doubt about that, you can't succeed. So it is the right thing to do. All of us agree. It's good for the country. GDP goes up, right? It's good for societies. It's good for families. Income increases. But it's good for business. And not just because some productivity number increases, it's because a diverse team delivers better results. The data is out there. US companies that have women on their board perform better. Okay? Now, it starts with a commitment. So let me just talk a few examples, right? You want to do a global thing. A little bit of credibility first, right? So we have 40,000 women. 43% of our management globally are women. 1/3 of our senior management are women. By the way, this is a big change. Was when I started with the company 36 years ago. When you looked at the annual report 36 years ago, it was all men wearing blue or gray suits and red ties. Today is like a United Nations, and 1/3 of them are women. 1/3 of our board are women. Okay? In India, 50% of the workforce is women. 30% overall is women. 40% of my leadership team is women, right? Now let me tell you 3 examples of where, if you're committed, you can make things happen, right? So 2003, I moved to Saudi Arabia. That time, there was no women working at Procter & Gamble in Saudi Arabia. After a lot of work, we got license number 1 to hire females in Saudi Arabia. This is one of my proudest accomplishments. Every time we have a management visit, I show them this license. It's in Arabic, but it says number 1, right? Today, 15% of our workforce in Saudi Arabia are women, right? When I worked in Korea in 2000 to 2003, it was a very male-dominated culture. I worked with 2 young ladies who were product managers at the time, S.K. Lee and Joo-yeon Kim. The last 2 managing directors in Korea have been women, and these 2 women. Joo-yeon Kim is the current managing director of Korea, right? One coming closer to home. We built our plant in Hyderabad 4 or 5 years ago. We decided that 30% of the workforce would be women. At the time, there was a law in Hyderabad that women could not work the night shift. We worked with the government to change it. We started with 30%, and we've now increased on it, right? So when corporates are committed, governments are supportive. And I can tell you today, with the likes of Mr. Amitabh Khan, and I'm not just saying it because he's here.
Are you sure?
I'm sure. And with the right Gujaratis in power, because I'm a Gujarati, right? With Prime Minister Modi, with the commitment you have, corporates feel like you have a partner you can partner with to make a step change in this area, right? Which is very different. Very different. So I think it's all about intention on both sides. And once the intention is there, the commitment is there, you'll find a way.
Al, you had something to say.
Yeah, I want to build on the government part. So we are in the feminine care business. And what happens is a lot of girls drop out when they hit menstruation, right? And we educate 4.5 million girls yearly on menstrual health. And what I've seen recently with the government's girl-child policy, a lot of chief ministers are becoming interested in how do we extend this to government schools, right? So what do we need? We go in and we take 1 teacher per school and make her the expert on menstrual health. Then we go in with our programs, showing the girls how to use the pads because their mothers did not, right? Also, we found it's very important to have toilets, girl toilets in the schools. And that's why the government's initiative on toilets is right on. Because if you have the right pad, but if you don't have a toilet, the girls will not go to school. And if they start missing a week of school, pretty soon they fall behind, then they drop out, right? This is where I think a good example of partnering, between government and corporates, right? Now, one thing I would add also, I think it's great to have female role models. I think it's great to create networks for support. We've tried mentoring at a regional and global level, where our female leaders, okay? But this doesn't take away the responsibility of the male managers. As the managing director of Procter & Gamble, I have to do succession planning for my lead team. I get to choose who those people are, including my own replacement. And it is my job, my responsibility, to make sure that women are well represented there.
So
right?
do we need men heroes at the workplace? Your frontline managers, your male board members, your immediate supervisor. Is that what we're targeting? The hero dad, the hero manager? Is that the cultural mindset that we need to take, that he takes it in the workplace and then takes it home?
I don't know if it's agriculture mindset, but it is, without it, it will not work. Right? So if you're a company there is no women, how are you going to jumpstart it? Because again, getting the women in is half the job. Retaining them is very important, right? So how are you going to create the support system? How do you tell men how they're going to behave? In a supportive way. How are you going to tell them that you're going to have zero tolerance for sexual harassment, right? Because this is what women are worried about, right? Security, harassment, right? This is our job as leaders, right? And then once you get the virtuous cycle going, the women create the networks and the support, and we can tap into the regional, global. I think we can go into other companies for mentorship, right? But that doesn't take away my responsibility, right? Because this is absolutely critical. If I believe it's the right thing to do and right for business, just like any business strategy, I'm committed to it, I will execute with excellence, right? I think it starts with this Maitri. Without this, I think you will not make progress. I want to take a second question, which is how do you address societal biases, right? I think one good way, it's all about fear of the unknown. When I came to India 2 years ago, I had a very big bias about how the place was going to be. And when I came here, I felt much more comfortable. First of all, I felt like a majority the first time in my life, which was very good, right? But I think also, as business people, as government, we can take on some biases, right? So there is a bias around when a girl menstruates, she's unclean, and she shouldn't go in the kitchen. So we came with a movement called Touch the Pickle, which was by a Whisper brand, and it started a discussion about menstruation is a completely normal bodily function. Without it, none of us would be alive, right? Then for our laundry brands, we came with Share the Load. So as both husband and wife are working, the husband can't become the same lazy person who sits there and gets everything solved to them. They have to do Share the Load, right? We have something called It Takes Two for our Pampers brand, which is like, as you're raising a child, right, and both of you are working, I better change my share of diapers, right? Okay? And we've got something called Being Girl, which is our Whisper brand again. They really went alive at the Olympics, which is letting girls really express themselves as girls, participating in sports. And we have such good role models in India, right? With the Rizwan Olympics, right? So this is, I think, another way of confronting those biases in a way that starts a conversation. And with social media today, the discussion happens. Now, who are we talking to? We're talking to the parents. We're talking to society who holds this bias, right? These young girls and young guys, they are okay. They're moved on, right? But we try to address it at the roots, right? And I hope that we can make a difference in a small way with these kind of conversations happening, right? And the government, of course, is supporting us. When Prime Minister Modi declares, that girl child is an important priority for the government, it's sending a message, right? So again, it's, I think, a joint responsibility to confront those biases. But we have to be patient. These things take time, right? And we have to stay with it. It's going to take a while to get there.
Al, lessons that PNG or the rest of the world can learn from things and actions that are being done here in India. Does something strike you that the aha moment, that this is a lesson we can take? It's not always west to east.
I think, look, there are many, many things today going from India to the Western world, right? A lot of innovation is coming here. I talked to you about a few of the campaigns we've run here, right? And these are winning awards in Cannes, right? And they get replicated globally, right? So I think we can be an example, okay? I would say today that there's no place better to be than in India. Macroeconomically, demographically, with the policies the governments are coming in, if we can get this piece right and really empower women and get them into the workforce, it's going to take a good thing and make it great, right? And this will be lasting. And it'll be a societal change that we can all look back at and feel very proud about, right? So there will be, I think, you're right. We have to start with ourselves. And if we can do it right, I think it's going to be wonderful.